All right, how to retire early. That's what we're going to talk about today on the live stream. Follow this early retirement strategy. I want to talk about how you can retire early. What are the steps that you need to take in order to retire early, starting at a very young age? We're going to start in our 30s, how to retire early. And we're going to follow an exact early retirement strategy so that you can retire maybe in your mid 50s, maybe in your early 60s. Remember, the average retirement age today is actually moved up 2 years. It was 62 years old last year. It's moved to 64.6. I don't know where I guess they're getting a half a year in there. But 64.6 is the average retirement age today. And so I want to say, how are we going to retire early? How are we going to do this and make this work? All right, so let's go over here. And what I want to look at is a couple different things. This is the video that I did recently, how to retire early, follow this early retirement strategy. And I really want to expand on this because this video, the time allotment for your concentration on YouTube is shorter. And so what I want to do in the live stream is really get to expand on how to retire early and how you can follow this early retirement strategy. And I also want you to ask questions. If you have things that are going on in your own life, in your own retirement, you have those questions, put those in the chat, leave them in the comments. I'll come back and see them if you watch this later. But I really want to help you understand how are we going to retire early. So let's start. Let's start here. We're going to start at 35 years old. How to retire early. What do you need to be doing if you are younger and you're wanting to retire early? Well, the first thing you want to be doing is investing for growth. Now, what I said in the video is that I want to see you investing at least 20% or more of your gross income into your retirement assets in order for you to retire. Now, that is the baseline that I use for all individuals, no matter what your age is. 20% of your gross income is what I want you investing for retirement. And the reason I want you investing 20% over what most professionals say, maybe they'll say, I want you investing 15%. I want you investing 20% or more of your gross income for retirement, because retirement is getting more expensive. You know, there was an article actually today, and I have not got a chance to get it out onto YouTube yet, but there was an article in Barron's today talking about how $1 million is not enough to retire today. So we need to be investing more now so that we can have more in the future. So I want you investing at least 20% or more of your investable assets for retirement. Now, Fidelity actually has a different idea on this, and I want to pull that up to show you exactly what Fidelity says when it comes to saving for retirement. Fidelity actually says this. Pull this up. How much should I save for retirement? Fidelity says aim for at least 15% of your income annually for retirement. I'm going to show you what they say in this. Fidelity is saying aim to save at least 15% of your pre-tax income each year for retirement. And then I'm going to show you where I disagree with Fidelity. All right, you ready for that? So 15% is what they say you need to invest for retirement. And they're assuming you're starting at 25 years old. Now, I don't know, like I was 25 years old. I wasn't thinking about saving for retirement. So that's why I think it's imperative that you're saving at least 20% for retirement or more. But what Fidelity says is aim to save at least 15% of your pre-tax income each year for retirement, which includes any employer match. Now, I'm going to disagree with Fidelity for a second, which includes any employer match. Now, if you have a 401k at your job, a 403b, any kind of retirement plan that you're able to put money into a Roth 401k that your company is giving you a match on, make sure you're at least putting in the match. So if your company's matching 4%, make sure you're at least putting in 4% into your 401k, into your 403b, your Roth 401k. I prefer 20% or more. But if you can only do the match, at least do the match. But Fidelity says aim for 15%, which includes the employer match. I disagree with that. I want you to invest 15 to 20% of your gross income and forget about the match. Let the match be gravy, right? Let that be the gravy to your mashed potatoes, or as we call it, taters. Let the match be the gravy, because you need to set a standard right now for saying, I'm going to save this amount of money no matter what. It's going into my 401k. It's going into my IRA, because I know 15, 20, 25 years from now, I'm going to need these retirement assets to live on. And so I need to be doing the due diligence. I need to make the sacrifices today so that I can retire. Kevin York says this. He says, I'm at about 27%. That's great. If you're talking about 27% going into your 401ks that or your retirement accounts, that is awesome. Because listen, retirement is getting more expensive. I cannot tell you how many videos that I do. Can I retire? You see them on the channel, and people come to me, and I'll say, no, you cannot retire at this age because you've not saved enough. And so we really need to be saving more now so that we can retire. So Fidelity says 15% of your pre-tax income needs to be saved for retirement. Now, they do actually say this, which is I like. Is 15% enough? You got to start early. So you want to start early. They're showing you, hey, 15% at 25, 18% at 30, 23% at 35. That's their suggested savings rate, which is really nice. I want you at 20% or more no matter what age you're at. Because again, retirement is getting expensive. And they're even talking about delaying retirement because of how expensive retirement is getting. And so we've got to be saving enough. So if we're young, listen, if you're 35, you want to be investing in your 401k and in your IRAs. Between the ages of 35 and 45, we want to also be looking at paying off debt and living on a budget. Now, I know a budget is a bad word. I know that a lot of people don't like the word budget. I might as well just drop the F-bomb. But a budget is so important. You want to know what's going in, and you want to know what's going out, and you want to know how much more can I save in my 401ks, in my IRAs, in my Roth IRAs. How much more can I save? And it's so very important to have a budget. And I don't want to sound like Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey does an amazing job. Love his channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to his channel. He does a great job. But a budget is super duper important. And paying off debt. Let me tell you this. As I create retirement plans for individuals, those who have no debt or little debt, those are the individuals who I'm helping retire early. Those are the individuals who have a step ahead because they don't have that payment that has to go out each month. And now we're able to say, okay, we've got some flexibility. We don't have to pay out $15,000, $2,000, $3,000 for a mortgage payment every month. We actually can repurpose that money into our portfolios, repurpose that money into our everyday spending. So less money has to come out of our retirement investing account, and more money can go towards our retirement income plan. Cricket Lee says this, I only do 6% in the 401k to get the match. I put the rest in a brokerage account so I can retire early. He also says mortgage is paid, free and clear. Congratulations, Cricket. You're doing awesome. But here's what I want to point out that Cricket Lee said. I'm only putting 6% in the 401k to get the match. That's what we just talked about. That's awesome. Put the money in to get the match. I put the rest in a brokerage account so I can retire early. Now, you'll see here, between the ages of 35 and 45, I'm encouraging individuals to have what I call a cash bucket. A cash bucket. What is a cash bucket? A cash bucket is money that's invested, like Cricket, in a brokerage account that you can invest in the same stuff that you're investing in your IRA, your 401k. But what a cash bucket allows you to do, and in our industry we call it a freedom bucket, the cash bucket gives you the freedom to retire at whatever age you want, if you have enough saved. And we're going to talk about how much you need to have saved by age here in just a second. But what the cash bucket allows you to do is you don't have to jump through the hoops to get your retirement income out, right? Rule of 55 if you're in a 401k, 72T, 10% penalty for pulling money out pre 59 and a half. But with a cash bucket, if you've got money in a brokerage account, you take that money out. You take it out and do whatever you want. It doesn't matter how old you are. You're 50. I had a client retire at 51, and he had a large cash bucket, a large amount of money in a taxable brokerage account. And because of that, he was able to use that money for retirement income. And so we want to have a nice cash bucket. Now, what Cricket was doing was he was saying, I'm putting 6% in my 401k and I'm putting the rest into my taxable brokerage account. Listen, as long as you're getting the match in your 401k, your Roth 401k, and as long as you're putting in 15, 20% into retirement investing accounts, I'm not necessarily concerned about how those assets are structured. I'm more concerned at, are you saving the 15 to 20%? 20% or more is what I prefer. And if you have the ability, start putting money into that cash bucket. Now, when most of my clients who get in touch with me in their late 30s, maybe mid 40s, they're asking, Drew, listen, I want you to do the EKG. I want to retire maybe 10, 15 years from now, but I got to know, like, how much do I need saved? Like, am I on track? Am I on track for retirement? If I saved enough based on, what the financial planning world says is a good number. And so what I like to do is let's look at what we need to have saved, and then let's look at what most people have saved. So here is a visual of how much you want to have saved for retirement based on age. Now, keep in mind, we're looking at all of your retirement investing accounts. We're looking at your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, your 401ks, your 403bs, 457s, TSPs, everything combined into one. Here's the kicker, though, too. If you work for a government, if you work for the state, local feds, you're in the military, you work for an old school business that has a pension, some of these figures are skewed to the high side because you're going to have that pension. Now, I still want you to invest. I still want you to contribute. I still want you to act like that pension's just gravy. But you might not have as much saved for retirement when you decide to step into retirement because your pension plus Social Security is going to cover a lot of your everyday expenses. And we go through a lot of that with the EKGs. And so these numbers are mainly for those individuals who don't get a pension. So like 98% of the rest of the country. So if you're age 30, you want to have at least half of your salary saved today for retirement. So if you've got $50,000, if your salary is $50,000, you want at least $25,000 saved for retirement. Age 35, 1 to 1.5. So $50,000 saved for retirement. You want at least $50,000 to $75,000 saved for retirement. 40, 1.5 to 2.5. And you can see how these grow as we get older, right? 55. This is kind of that key range. Can I retire at 55? Retire at 55. Those are a lot of the videos that I do because that's kind of that's my sweet spot. Age 50 to 60, most people are calling me saying, hey, Drew, it's time for me to retire. Can I do it? If you're 50 to 55, you want at least 3 to 5.5 times your salary saved. At 55, you want at least 4.5 to 8 times your salary saved today. If you're on the lower end of 4.5, you might have to delay your retirement closer to 64, 65, 66. If you're closer to that 8, 9, 10 level, you might be able to retire a little earlier than you expected. Now, the sobering fact about all of this is that we ain't got that saved. And I know I show this on a lot of the live streams, but I love to show this chart because this puts a little bit of realization into our retirement world. This is a study by Vanguard this year of how much is saved by age. This is the average, and this is the median. Now, the average is skewed, right? Because you've got like Bill Gates at the top. You've got people that have 0 at the bottom, maybe a 21, 22-year-old who just started working, and then they average those numbers. And so it's skewed. The median is they take Bill Gates at the top, they take the 21-year-old with zero at the bottom, and they put a boop pin right in the middle. That's a better idea of what is saved for retirement nationally. If you look at this, age 45 to 54, the average saved for retirement, 179,200. 61,530 is the median. 55 to 64, 256 is the average saved for retirement. The median is 89,716. So the average salary today, okay, is $66,000. So $66,000, ages 55 to 64. If we want to have 8 times our salary saved, multiply that by 8. That's $528,000. We are way off of how much we need to have saved if we want to retire early. Stephen Cutler says, legend says. Sometimes Drew will say hi back. Hi, Stephen. Hey, and Kevin says this, I'm 36 and between 401k, IRA, and brokerage, I'm at 3 times. Glad to be ahead of the game. Yeah, you want to be ahead of the game. Listen, if you are ahead of the game, if you're Kevin, and if you are saving for retirement and you're doing the right things, and you look at this chart and you go, man, I'm 38 years old and I've got $150,000 saved. I'm really good. And, you know, we can maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Don't do that. Keep pushing forward. Keep looking at ways to save more. Keep contributing. Now, listen, I'm a realist. I got 3 kids. I don't know if you can see that right there. I got 3 kids and a beautiful wife. I don't want you eating rice and beans. They need diapers. I want to have experiences with them while they're young. We live in Florida. I want to go to the beach and take them to fun places. But don't sacrifice everything for today. Look for ways that you can have balance so that you're not eating. I mean, I like rice and beans. Don't get me wrong. We eat that a lot around here. But I want you to enjoy life, but also understand, hey, Drew Blackston, I'm 36. I'll be 37 and the 24th of December, whenever that is, when you're watching this video. So I'll be 37. But 67 Drew is like 30 years away, right? And so I'm 37 today. I remember I was just talking to a client in Kentucky before this live stream. I was born in Owensboro, Kentucky. They're from Owensboro, Kentucky. And we were talking, I was reminiscing. And I remember like it was yesterday playing on my grandfather's farm and playing baseball and just enjoying life. And now I'm 37. I got 3 kids. I got a house. I got life insurance. So Drew at 67 is going to be here before we know it. And so that's why it's so very important to save 15 to 20% or more of your gross income for retirement, because these numbers, I always like to say, math don't lie. Math don't lie. You know, the people say in basketball when the ref makes a bad call, they say ball doesn't lie. Listen, math don't lie. And this is math. And we need to be aware of what's going on in the world. A great strategy for you to use if you're thinking, how can I budget more? How can I save more? 50-15-5 rule. 50-15-5 rule. 50% of your income goes to expenses. 15% goes to investing. 5% goes to emergency. You're like, Drew, that doesn't add up. That only adds up to 70. That leaves you 30% discretionary. 30% discretionary for you to enjoy life. And if you don't use all 30% of that, I'm not telling you to go try to find it. Try to use 30% of it. Listen, my wife and I look at our spending. I'm a little anal. I look at it on a monthly basis. But we look at it every January and go, okay, are there things that we can cut out? You know, we cut out a lot of streaming services last year. We don't need them. We don't watch them. Our kids they don't watch Paramount Plus. They can watch Paw Patrol on for free with, you know, our Nick Jr. thing. So are there things that we can cut out in order that we can save more for the future? And so we just want to be aware of that. All right, so moving on. Thank you so much for your questions or comments. If you got more, leave them in the chat. Make sure that, hey, listen, if you're watching this as after it's recorded, leave it in the comment section. I'll answer it. Unless you call me stupid. Somebody called me stupid recently. I didn't answer that. All right. So age 35 to 45. Remember, we're starting our investing. We're paying off debt. We've got a cash bucket. 25X rule I put on here. Let's talk about that a little later. I don't want to get into that yet. But what the 25X rule says is take your annual expenses, multiply those by 25, and that's how much you want to have saved for retirement. But I want to move on from that. Let's not go to that just yet. All right, so let's move in the video here. Come on, Drew, get out of the way. Here we go. So let's look at 45 to 55, because this is a key range for my people who are retiring. Because when you get to 45, you've got 10 years to age 55, which if you look at Google Trends and Google searches, more people are searching, can I retire at 55? So we've got about 10 years from 45 to 55 if we're wanting to retire early. We've got about 15 years to 60, and we've got 20 years to 65. 65 is a big age because that's Medicare. We're 2 years away from full retirement age of 67. So when we're 45 years old, now listen, I want you thinking about retirement in your 30s. But when you get to your mid 40s, you've really, really, really got to start thinking about retirement. And this is where you want to continue investing, continue saving, continue contributing. But this is also where you want to start creating your retirement plan. Now, I call it a financial EKG. We do financial EKGs here for clients. We create retirement plans. But what I want you thinking about at 45 is some of the things that I'm asking people who are reaching out to me now at 55 and 60. How much in retirement income do you think you're going to need? What do you think your monthly expenses are going to be once you get into retirement? Are the kids going to be gone? Are you going to have a mortgage? What are some expenses that are going to fall off as you get closer to retirement? What are expenses that do you want to stay in your state? You might say, you know what? I just want to go to, Florida. You might live in New Jersey and say, you know what? I want to move to Florida because of lower taxes and the weather. Whatever. I'm not telling you everybody to come to Florida, but what I mean is you want to start thinking about those things today, because that's going to benefit you when you start creating your retirement income plan. The other thing you want to start thinking about, especially in your 40s, and I know this is kind of a hot button topic because we don't know what the future holds, but we want to start thinking about Social Security. Now, I realize that 2033, there's going to need to be some changes to the Social Security system in order to keep it 100% funded. Right now, 2033, it looks like they're going to be able to pay out, or Social Security is going to be able to pay out about 75% of promised benefits. So all the tax dollars coming in are going to be able to pay out for about 75% of benefits. I don't foresee them cutting Social Security. That's a huge voting base, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. And so they're going to have to fix that. But you want to start thinking about Social Security. And one of the best ways to do that is just go to the Social Security website. Go to Social Security, go to the account page. It's ssa.gov. Create your account. You can do it with, this login. I use ID.me. Go in there, create your Social Security account, and start looking at your Social Security statement. Start looking at how much in Social Security benefits are you projected to get. 62, 67, 65, 70. So that you know, hey, this income, Social Security is the only guaranteed income that you're going to get in retirement, unless you have a pension or annuity or something like that. How much is that going to be? And what are the projections for that? And that's why you want to start looking at that, especially in your early 40s. Start thinking about Social Security. And a great place to go, and this is a free website, socialsecurityestimator.com. This is a great website so you can start plugging in some information on your Social Security to get a good idea of when you should claim Social Security. And this is just a snapshot. You want to have a fully encompassed financial EKG to understand when you should exactly take Social Security. Because if you read all the articles, they're going to tell you, hey, take Social Security at 67, take it at 70. But there are instances where you might take it at 62. There's instances where you might take it at 64. And we need to understand what that looks like. That's why you want to start creating that plan. But this is a great website. Let me show you how this works. I'll do this real quick. So let's just use me and my wife. Oh, my spouse's name is not Blackstone. Her name's Valerie. All right. So male, female, we're married. So birth year, it's a little tough because I can't put my birth year in 85. It doesn't calculate it very well. So let's say I was born in 1963. Let's say my wife was born in 1967. And so not 63, I'm sorry. Yeah, full retirement age, 67 years old. That's when our full retirement age will be. If you were born after the year of 1960, your full retirement age is 67. If you were born previous to 1960, 66, and some other months, you'll figure that out on SSA.gov as well. Do we have a pension? No, no non-covered pensions like the railroad, things like that. So projected monthly benefit at full retirement age. This is why it's so important to have your Social Security statement. So you know, this is the exact amount that I'm projected to get. Now, we need to look at if you retire early, what's that do? But again, what am I projected to get? So let's say that Drew's projected to get $3,000 at full retirement age. My wife works for the firm, so let's just say she gets $2,000 at full retirement age. Now, life expectancy, which is cool about this tool, is you can update life expectancy on this. So you can say, oh, well, I think that I'm going to live longer. I'm a big proponent, and John and I have had a conversation about this plenty on the channel. I think people are going to live longer than what mortality tables are saying. There's more centurions today in America than there ever has been, which means people over the age of 100. I just think health increases. I think understanding what we're eating, we're exercising more. And so I think we're going to live longer than the people go, oh, my dad died at this age, my grandfather. Well, your grandfather didn't have the health breakthroughs that we have today, right? Like my grandfather died of asbestos cancer. If he had the same cancer today, they could have cured him, right? But he died in 1980. He died in 1985, died the year I was born. And so, things are changing. So we've got to understand, maybe we're going to live long. So let's say our life expectancy for me is 90, and let's say for my wife it's 92. Let's go a little bit longer, okay? So we click next on this. We have three options. Let me get a quick drink of Spindrift here. I'm doing the pineapple today. It's pretty good. All right. So take benefits as early as possible, even if it means receiving a reduced amount. So that's if you were going to claim benefits at 62. Receive the maximum amount of cumulative lifetime benefits. So that means how much are we going to get if we claim at 67, if we claim at 70, how much are we going to get over our lifetime if we die at 92 and 90, okay? And then the maximum cumulative benefits for the surviving spouse. This is a really good option. If my wife Val was, say, so she's about 4 or 5 years younger than me. Let's say she was 10 years or more. This is a really good one to say, okay, what's my spouse going to get? Or if your spouse was a homemaker or had a low-paying job, her Social Security benefit or his Social Security benefit is not going to be as very high. Like maybe they're going to take a spousal benefit. This is a really good option. But let's just look at the cumulative. We click next here. So what this tells us, again, this is just an easy snapshot. So this plan here should be built with your Social Security statement and with your financial EKG, your retirement income plan. So we've got me, married, our birth years, when's our full retirement, there's our Social Security, and there's our life expectancy. So we look and we say, okay, what's the cumulative benefits? So if I file at 62, my total benefits, filing at 62, dying at 90, would be $730,000, okay? Now, filing at full retirement age, I would get $864,000 cumulative benefits, right? Social Security every month, so 12 months multiplied by how many years it was from 67 to 90, $864,000. And if I file at 70, I would get $937,000 cumulative, and that means I'd have 937 from 70 to 90, okay? Now for my wife, file at 62, 598, file at full retirement age, 696, and file at 70, 773. And you can see over here what's the total cumulative benefit. Now, where this gets a little interesting is if you bring down, let's go back to edit. Let's bring down the life expectancy. So let's take me to 81 and let's say 84, which is like today's life expectancies. And you can see if I file at full retirement age, I get $540,000 in cumulative benefits versus filing at 70, I get $535,000. So it actually, if I feel like I'm gonna die early, it would make more sense to file at full retirement age instead of filing at 70. Now for my wife, her filing at 70 makes more sense than filing at her full retirement age. Again, this is just doing the math. This is just looking at it and saying, okay, based on this chart and this math. But that's why it's really important to understand what's your Social Security benefit going to be, especially, listen, this is, oops, wrong one here. I'm gonna go, here we go. Especially if you're right here in this age, between 45 and 50, this is when you really want to start building out that financial EKG and understanding your Social Security options and where your retirement income is going to come from. Let me get to the chat a little bit. Neil says this: I live a broke lifestyle, putting 25% and spread out between Roth 401ks, and a Freedom Bucket. Love that you're using the Freedom Bucket term. Thank you, sir. I sure hope this market takes off to the moon in about 7 to 10 years when it's time for me to stop working. To the moon! That's what all the people buying AMC and cryptocurrency said about 2 years ago. Neil, you're doing a great job. 25% spread out between a Roth 401k, and a Freedom Bucket. That's exactly what you want to be doing. And John says this is who I talked to about health. He says, I personally don't focus on breaking even or how much I get from Social Security in total. You're right, John, because it comes down to what Social Security option. When is the most optimal time for me to collect Social Security based on my plan? So, John, based on your plan, based on how much retirement income you need, when is the optimal time for me to take Social Security? Now, age 50 to 55, as critical as 45 to 50, like we've been talking about, especially if you're thinking, how can I retire early? When can I retire early? We start thinking about income. Where's our income going to come from when we retire? We've talked about that with Social Security. If you are working at a job and you have a 401k and you want to retire at 55, where's your retirement income going to come from? Are you going to use the rule of 55? What the rule of 55 simply says is if you are 55 years or older and you leave your job, or you're terminated, or you retire, you can use your current 401k without paying a 10% penalty for retirement income. Now, you still have to pay taxes. Still got to pay taxes on that money, but you don't have to pay the 10% penalty. Now, the IRS lays this out really good here. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, let me share this with you guys so you can see this. This is on irs.gov, just so you don't think I'm lying. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Distributions made to you after you separate from service with your employer if the separation occurred in or after the year you reached age 55. So the rule 55 says, listen, you retire at 57, you can use your current 401k for retirement income if they allow it without paying the 10% penalty. Now, you still pay taxes, but you don't pay the penalty. Or rule of 50 for government employees. Listen, if you're a government employee, state, local, fed, listen up. Distributions made from a qualified governmental benefit plan as defined in Section 414D. If you're a public safety employee, that is age 50. So the rule of 55 is for all of us working folk on the, is that private side? Private side, and the public side for age 50. So you want to be thinking about, where's my retirement income going to come from? Is it going to be a rule of 55? Maybe you don't have all your money in 401ks. Let me say this too before I jump over to 72Ts and other options. If you have old 401ks at old firms or rollover IRAs, and you're thinking about retiring at 55, 56, 57, and you want to use the rule of 55, ask your plan administrator if you can do a reverse rollover, meaning you move money from your IRAs or from your old 401ks into your current 401k. So that money becomes your current 401k as well. That way you've got all that 401k money in one place, so that if for whatever reason the market goes down or you need more income than you think, then you can all your assets are there. They're not somewhere else. Because once you retire, you can't go, well, let me roll this 401k into this other 401k so that I can use that for my income. No. Most time when you retire, the 401k company just lets money go out, not come back in. Okay? Make sure you talk to your plan administrator about that as well. So we're looking at this rule of 55, thinking about, what am I taking for income? How am I going to do this? You really want to think about it. 72T. So this is another subject you see a lot on YouTube. I've talked about it. It's a little bit more of a complicated subject, but a 72T allows you, if you have an IRA and you retire before the age of 59 and a half, you can use a 72T, it's the IRS code 72T, to take income out of your IRA without paying the 10% penalty. Now, there are rules to do that, okay? You can't just go in there and say, well, I'm going to take 5,000 this month and I'm going to take 2,000 next month. No. With the 72T, the IRS has said they have a specific formula that you can take out to take out money from your IRA with the 72T. And you've got to do this formula. You've got to do this distribution for 5 years or age 59 and a half, whichever is longer. So if you retire at 55, you can do it to age 59 and a half. But if you retire at 57 and you do a 72T, it's got to be 5 years. So 57, 58, 59, 60, 61. So up to 61. So you got to make sure you follow the rules. And in order to take out money from your IRA as a 72T, you have to do it the way the IRS says it. This is the IRS.gov. There's 3 methods: the required minimum distribution record method, the amortization method, and the annuitization method. If you Google 72T calculator, you can find a gazillion of them, and you can input your information, or you can go to this rule and it'll help you. Okay, so this is a really good form. This is on the IRS's website. Substantially equal periodic payments if you're thinking about retiring under the age of 59 and a half, and most of your money is in IRAs. This is a great booklet for you to read to help you understand what's a 72T and how does it work. All right, let's get to some of these comments. I do what Neil does, save 25% before any bills are paid. 25%, that is awesome. Thank you for doing that. 25% is great. Fast Eddie says this: if you move money from a previous employer's 401k to a current job and leave a few years later, can you do it? Just answered, thanks. Oh, glad I answered that question. Thank you so much. And Florida Sean says this: I only did 11% in the 401k and maxed my IRA. I bought too much house, so I'll need to downsize before retirement. Listen, Sean, here's the best thing about that comment. You're still doing it. You're contributing, you're investing, you're maxing out your IRA, you're putting money in your 401k. So listen, you're doing what you need to do. That's awesome. You also understand, listen, I bought too much house, so I need to downsize. And so that's great. So you're building up some equity in your current house. You understand that I'm going to leave this house soon, and I'm going to have to update that plan. Great. That's Sean. That's wonderful. I think that's great. I know it stinks sometimes when we make financial mistakes. I'm not saying buying a house is a mistake, but sometimes we do things, let's just say, quote unquote, mistake. Listen, I've made mistakes. You just move on. You learn from it. You go, okay, I get it. I know what I did wrong. Like when I played baseball, if I dipped my hands and I swung up, probably going to hit a weak fly ball to the infield, right? I do that. I learn from it. I say, okay, I keep my hands up, get on top of the ball. I'm not telling you I'm a hitting expert, though, so don't come to me for that. Come to me for that. I do love talking about baseball. Who's your favorite team? Leave it in the comments. We're Rays fans and Cubs fans here. Grew up, big Cubs guy. Moved to Florida. The Rays are the home team. Became a big Rays fan when I moved here in 2004. Had some pretty tough teams and then some really good teams with Evan Longoria. Fast Eddie says the Yankees. Boo. I'm going to take that down. Congrats on Judge. All right, so between the ages of 55 and 55, we're looking at the rule of 55, 72, and cash. So how to retire early, we have a cash bucket. And if we're able to use that, that is great. All right, so let's go. I've got, 38 minutes? I'm counting, 39. So let's go to 55 to 65 here. All right, so at age 55, this is what we want to be doing. If we're wanting to retire early and we're 55, we want to start updating our Social Security plan. That's something we want to do every year. But as you get closer at 55, you've got 12 years before you're eligible for Social Security. Now, it's a reduced benefit, but you have the ability to take Social Security. So you really want to update your Social Security plan at 55. Am I going to take it 62? Am I going to take it 67? Am I going to take it sometime other than those ages? And a lot of times people don't realize that you can take it actually at a different age. Look at this. If you take it 62, you get 70% of your full retirement benefit. But if you take it at 63, you get 75%. If you take it at 64, you get 80%. And if you take it at 63 and 5 months, it's 77.1. So you can take it anywhere between 62 and your full retirement age. And at 67 to 70, you get an 8% increase, a 124% benefit at 70. But that's again why when we go back to this, we want to make sure we have updated our retirement, what I call it again, the EKG. We want to update this plan to say, okay, now that I'm 55, now that I'm real close to retirement, when am I taking Social Security? When's the optimal time for me to take Social Security? John Gill says Pittsburgh Pirates. Man, I'm sorry, it's been some rough years there. Kevin York says the Nationals, Washington Nationals. I don't know what you guys are going to do this year. We'll see. 55 to 60. 65. Really at 60, investments become more conservative. Now, what do I mean by more conservative? I always do assumptions of 4 to 6%. If I'm doing anything, I always look at a 4 to 6% rate of return, especially when I'm doing an EKG for a client. The reason I do 4 to 6% is because I don't want to overestimate our returns. I want to make sure that we are under promising and over delivering. And what I mean by that is I would rather assume a 4 to 6% rate of return in our retirement planning on our investments and get 8 and 9%, and that would be great. But I don't want to do 8 and 9% and only get 4 to 6%, because that's going to throw our planning in the toilet. And it's really important to understand what has the market done in the past. So when we do an EKG for a client, we want to look at, yes, geometric returns, 4 to 6%, but we also want to look at what's the market done over certain time frames to help us get a good idea of what would our portfolio done during that same time frame. And let me see if I can find a really good example in the software here. Let me pull up. Let's see. All right, let's go to. Let me share this with you guys. Okay. This is an EKG. So let me pull up the retirement EKG here. So this is a sample EKG. This is what I send to people who ask for a sample of it. But what I like to look at when it comes to rate of return, we're going to look at a portfolio weighted average of normally anywhere between 4 and 6%. The reason I use 6% is because the market's averaged 8% over the last 50 years. Okay, 6% is 2% below that. So, I'd rather be more conservative in what I'm doing. So when you go to the retirement section of this to see, hey, are they going to run out of money? At 6%, in this scenario, he's out at 83 years old. Okay. Now, the rate of return needed to avoid a shortfall is 7.76. So I can already assume from the financial software that we got to earn a little bit more rate of return in order to make this plan work. Or we got to get $630,000 from somewhere. So that's the first step when you're thinking about what are my returns going to be in retirement. The second thing I look at is what has the market done? And we go, okay, if I retired in the year 2000 and I had sequence of return risk, right? -10, -13, -23. That's sequence of return risk. Sequence of return risk is are you guys getting, let's see, Fast Eddie says, am I the only one getting white noise in the background? John says, I'm getting static. Let's do this. All right. Check, check, check. Back. Let me know if that's better. So what we're looking at here is if I retired in the year 2000 and I had sequence of return risk meaning the market falls for multiple years in my retirement. So I go into retirement, the market drops, and now I'm pulling out retirement income from an asset that is going down. That's sequence of return risk. What does that do to my retirement planning? Hey guys, thanks for letting me know about static too. So in this case, we retire in the year 2000. Here's the 6% rate of return. Remember, at 6%, we're out at 83. But if we look back at market norms, he's out at 69, looking at the year 2000. So 2000 to 2010. Okay. Now go to, I like to look, I try to compare to like what's going on. I'm a history guy. So what's going on today versus what happened in the past. Now, it doesn't always mirror it, right? History doesn't always repeat exactly, but it does rhyme, right? It kind of rhymes. I just finished Eisenhower's book by Paul Johnson, and you can look at a lot of what went on in the 1950s, the expansion of the economy, the infrastructure, the markets, and you can say, well, that might have been like the 1990s. And then we had the 60s and the 70s, and we're dealing with that today, the high inflation. And so we go to 1968 because that's when the last time we had high inflation, kind of a stagnant economy, an oil crisis, right? We don't have any oil in our strategic reserve anymore because we're trying to keep gas prices low. And the Saudis, they're cutting. And so we look at this and we say, what would it have done from 1968 on? And he was out at 71. So it's a little better, but it's not, getting him to 100. And I know I say I use 100 because I would rather push it as far as we possibly can. But 83, out of money at 83 in this scenario is not where we want to be. So when we're here at 50, we want to make sure our investments are lining up with where we're stepping into retirement. I can't tell you how many people, especially after the last decade that we've had in the market, they come to me, maybe they manage their money themselves, maybe they have an advisor doing it, and they're really aggressive. And they're like, Drew, I want to retire in the next 6 months. I want to retire in the next 12 months. And I look at their portfolio. I look at how they're invested. And when I run a stress test on their investments, literally what it sounds like, I want to look at how would your portfolio perform under pressure, right? What would have happened to your portfolio during COVID, during 2008, during when interest rates went up for the first time in Q1 of 2018? What would have happened to your portfolio? Because we need to understand what is the risk on our money. Because a lot of times people come in and they'll have these portfolios that are super aggressive. And I'll say, listen, if we're stepping into retirement next year and the market falls 20%, you're going to lose $200,000-$300,000 with the way you're invested. So at 50, from 55 to 60, if we're thinking about retiring in that range, we've got to downgrade or downshift our investments. John Gill says this, what do you think of Robinhood's 1% match on the IRA? I don't know if that's even legal, to be honest with you. I'm just saying, I don't know. The IRS is going to have to figure that out. Here's what I would say about Robinhood. It's almost like sports gambling, the way they do things with their app and the way they entice people to buy and sell. I think there's a lot of stuff. It's kind of like the cryptocurrency stuff with FTX and Binance and Tether and all that stuff going on right now. I just would be real careful with Robinhood just in general. I'm happy if you're doing it and you're investing. Just be careful out there with what you're doing. So if we're between the ages of 55 and 65, our investments are becoming more conservative. And we're thinking about some tough subjects too. We're thinking about long-term care and we're thinking about Medicare. Now, long-term care is something that we don't necessarily like to talk about, but it is a realization that we have to understand because cost of your care, right? The cost to take care of you as you get older is increasing. And a great way, let me see if I can find, there's an awesome website that you can actually use. I believe I bookmarked it. That'll tell you what's the average cost of care. Here it is. This is a fantastic website. Make sure you write this down, pin it, put it in your notes. This is by Genworth. It's a cost of care survey. And what it does is you can actually look at how much long-term care or any kind of care would cost in your state. So let's use Florida because I'm in Florida. Can we say Tampa? Will it be Tampa? Tampa, Florida. That's where I'm at. And I want to look at monthly cost and I want to see what long-term care would cost when I'm older. So it's 2022.
80, what is it? 80, I think is the average age people start getting care. So let's say 80 minus 37, that's 43 years. So 2022 plus 43, that's 2065. So let's see what it's going to cost approximately in 2065. So we can look at this and we can say, okay, in-home care today costs about $4,700. 2065 costs $17,502. Assisted living, adult daycare, assisted living facility, $3,000 today, $12,000 in 2065. And nursing home, $36,000 for a private room, $32,000 for a nursing home facility. Fast Eddie says, look at Texas. Let's look at Texas. Let's back up. Take out Tampa. Texas. God bless Texas. And let's look recent. Let's say 2031. Let's say 2030. What's today? 2022. Let's say 2032. Let's say 10 years from now. This was in 2021, this survey, but we'll just see. We're going to say 10 years. Homemaker services, in-home healthcare, 45 today, 6,300 in 10 years. Assisted living, 5,500, actually pretty inexpensive in Texas. Nursing home, this is where it gets expensive, 7,000 in 10 years and 9,800 for a private room. So you want to start thinking about your long-term care. You really want to think about it because it's not a fun conversation. Like, I don't like talking about it, but listen, in 15 years of doing this, I've had so many clients. Most of them don't go into nursing home facilities. Most of it, it's at home, in-home care. But I've had so many clients who have had assisted living, had home health care. You know, they're building here in Florida, they're building a lot of independent communities where like you move in as you're independent, and as your health declines, you move, you go with that as your facility. You might go from independent living to assisted living to long-term care and to hospice care. And so you really want to have a plan for long-term care, because you don't, my dad always says it like this. My dad's 69. He's been a financial advisor for 50 years. So he can get away with saying whatever he wants. But he always says, you want to have a plan for long-term care. He said, do you want your son or daughter changing your diaper? And I don't want my son or daughter changing my. So we just want to have a plan. We want to have a plan for long-term care. It's really important, especially if we're in this age. I'd love to have that conversation earlier, but between ages 55 and 60. But now I'm not talking about insurance either. I'm not talking about long-term care insurance because that's expensive. I'm just saying, what's the plan? What are we going to do to take care of long-term care? There's other outside ideas. I really try to help clients say, okay, let's pin this asset up over here. This asset here is going to be for long-term care. If you never use it, if you just pass away, it's going to go to your heirs, or something's going to go to your heirs. I don't like long-term care insurance because you pay all this money. If you never use it, it just goes away. So that we got to look at different ways. Now, it might make sense for you to have long-term care insurance. You're single. Maybe you don't have any kids, or maybe you've got plenty of assets set aside from. It just depends. It's personal. You just want to have the conversation. Kevin York says this. So I'm guessing in your 40s, you want to try to pay off debt. Yeah, Kevin, I think if you're in your 40s, we talked about this a little bit. Let's go back here. 45 to 55. That's when you really want to start kind of thinking about your debt, trying to get that paid off as much as possible. Again, I would rather you keep putting money into your retirement plans than if your debt is going to have it paid off, if you have the ability to before retirement or at retirement. I would rather you continue to do those 401ks, IRAs, things like that. Maybe we can put together a debt payoff plan or something like that. But yeah, paying off debt's great. Fast Eddie says this, my house is my long-term care plan. Yeah, reverse mortgages, sell the house, things like that. You can use that for long-term care, retirement income, whatever you need. Again, I'm not saying go out and do that. I'm just saying those are options those are what I call bullets in the chamber if we need them for retirement. And last thing I want to talk about today, Medicare. And I don't want to get into Medicare, but in between the ages of 55 and 65, you really want to be thinking about Medicare. You want to really start. I'm not talking about, don't call those 1-800 numbers and start getting 1,000 phone calls. Listen, you turn 65, you become the most popular person in the neighborhood. Actually, you turn 64, you become the most popular person in the neighborhood, all the mail and everything you get. But you really want to start thinking about Medicare. If you're going to retire at 60 or you're going to retire at 55, what's my health insurance going to be until I get to Medicare? Are we going to do the Affordable Care Act? Are we going to do like a MediShare? Are we going to do self-insurance? Is our company going to cover us? Are we going to do COBRA for 18 months and then go on? Like, what's the cost of that going to be? That, again, that goes back to updating the plan. We always want to be updating the EKG. I tell my people, listen, when we do a financial EKG, whether you're 45, 55, or 65, we need to look at this on a yearly basis to make sure that you are continuing to get to retirement, through retirement, protecting your ability to stay in retirement. And healthcare costs, as they increase, healthcare is rising to about 5.5%. We need to be updating our plan for those healthcare costs. So between the ages of 55 and 65, we want to be talking about healthcare and understanding when are we going to take Medicare. There's actually a really good, let's see if I can find this booklet for you guys. If you go to medicare.gov, let's see, do I have that? Here we go. You can actually get, let me stop this. And I just downloaded this. So I just went on Medicare's website and got this. And I like to read through this again for my clients so I can understand Medicare for them. This is Medicare and You. It's the official U.S. government book on Medicare. It's 128 pages. So if you have trouble sleeping at night, read this. But this will give you everything you want to know about Medicare. What's new and important, because there's certain supplement plans that have gone away that you used to be able to get. They're no longer there. You know, what does Medicare cover? Most people think Medicare is going to cover like long-term care. But I always say, listen, Medicare doesn't cover long-term care. Inpatient care in a skilled nursing facility is covered under Part A for a certain amount of time, but not custodial or long-term care. So you really want to make sure you understand what's covered in Medicare and what's covered in your plan. So this is Medicare and You. Let me see here. Medicare and You. Just go to Medicare's website. You can get this, or email me. Go to the website, pearlwealthgroup.com. Email me, and I can email you these booklets over. No problem. Okay. So let's go back to this. All right. Here we are. 55 to 65, thinking about Medicare. That's important. Okay, so make sure I covered everything. I'm old school. I have notes. I don't know if you guys use notes. I have to write everything down or I forget it. We're at the 57-minute mark. I got about 3 minutes till I eat lunch because I am hungry. Does anybody have any questions, comments that they want to leave? Kevin York says, I'm doing both. All I have is my house and my Jeep. Sell the house, sell the Jeep, pay for the care, and maxing everything else out. That's great, Kevin. I'm just kidding. We really want to understand if we're retiring early. Let's recap real quick. 35 to 45. This is where you really want to be investing for growth. 20% or more of your gross income going to your retirement assets. Paying off debt, having a budget, really trying to pay off debt and have a budget in this age group. Now, again, like I said, I don't want you paying off your debt if it's causing you to not live life and enjoy. I know that Dave Ramsey, and I get the baby steps and I'm all for that. We can have difference of opinions and that's okay. But I pay off all our debt. I want you to pay off all your debt. I really want that, but make sure it fits your plan, living on a budget and creating that freedom bucket. That is so important, especially when you are thinking about retiring early. From age 45 to 55, continue investing. But at age 45, this is really when you want to start creating that EKG. You really want to start looking projections for Social Security. Where's my retirement income going to come from? What are the taxes going to be on that? What about Social Security taxes? All of that. And you want to start thinking too about how are we going to get income out of our portfolios when we retire? Rule of 55, 72T, freedom bucket. And last but not least, between the ages of 55 and 65, that's when we're updating our Social Security plan. We want to know exactly when we are taking our Social Security, 62, 67, 70. What about our investments? They need a downshift, right? Kevin, you're going to downshift in your Jeep. We're going to get more conservative because now we're not climbing the mountain to retirement. We're coming down the mountain. And so we want to make sure that we don't roll our Jeep on the way down. We want to be more conservative. We're talking about long-term care and Medicare, two topics that are not fun and don't get a lot of, you don't get millions of hits on YouTube talking about long-term care. You do that when you say, buy this stock, it's going to the moon. But it's important. Listen, you will be 80 before you know it, right? Bible says life's a vapor. We're all vapors. We're just passing through. So we want to think about long-term care and we want to think about Medicare. All right. Any other questions? Listen, I've enjoyed this. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of the Your Financial EKG community. I saw somebody up there say we're all family. We are family. We are a community trying to get to retirement, trying to get through retirement, protecting ourselves to help us stay in retirement. That's our goal here at Your Financial EKG. We want to make sure you stay in retirement. We're all hardworking Americans doing the best that we can. Let's do it. Let's do it together. Let's do it the right way. All right. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.